With that out of the way, let's get into main topic number one. And the first topic today comes to us from one of our Patreon supporters, Eric Castleberg, who writes, "So I went to my nearby AMC theater to see Deadpool 2. The last 1/4 of the movie had a yellow film over it. I politely spoke to a manager. The manager looked at me with a blank face and screamed, 'And what's your point?' Then said without blushing, 'I will have to see if that's the way the movie's supposed to be.' I'm not an entitled, greedy bastard, but I was floored that they didn't even offer the slightest compensation for such a glaring technical error." Okay, so Eric, by the way, sent along a picture. I wasn't able to bring it over, unfortunately. Eric sent along a picture of what he saw, because when it was happening on screen, you should never take out your phone in a theater, but when this was happening, he took out his phone, took a picture of the screen as an example. And yeah, sure enough, you had the screen, and right down the middle of it, on one side, it looked fine. And then on the other side, it looked somebody took a yellow piece of film and put it over it. And it was just like really distracting. Now, this kind of came up the other day too, but I thought it was worth following up on. The interesting question is, what should movie theaters' responsibility be when something goes wrong? Now, look, I think we as consumers are way too entitled. Consumers have a way overdeveloped sense of entitlement. Like, nothing should ever go wrong. Hey, man, things go wrong. Things go wrong on your trip to work. Things go wrong in your house. Things go wrong in your bathroom. Things go wrong wherever. Things go wrong. Things happen, bad things happen, and that includes in a movie theater. And sometimes something goes wrong, like popcorn gets burned, a technical glitch on this or that, whatever, it happens. And I think for a long time, like consumers, being the entitled little whiny babies that we are, the moment anything slightly goes wrong, we cry and whine and complain. But in situations like this, hey, something goes wrong, okay, you bring it to the theater's attention. Hey, just so you know, something's wrong with the film here, and it's really making it difficult to watch. The question doesn't become, to me, the quality of a company, to me, is not about does something go wrong. It's about what does the company do to address it once something has gone wrong, because mistakes happen. And in a situation like this, for a manager to say to a consumer, hey, and when a consumer comes and says, hey, look, I paid to be here, and there's something wrong with the film, you should probably check it out. And what's your point? I mean, that is not the appropriate response to a consumer who's reporting a legitimate problem. Now, look, to be fair to this manager that same day probably had to deal with a dozen whiny, entitled little babies. It's like, I didn't like the taste of this one piece of popcorn. Give me $100. Like, they probably had to deal with a bunch of those people the same day. So maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe they were fed up. But look, a movie theater is responsible for your experience. And I think when something bad does happen, we accept that bad things happen, but they need to take steps to make up for it. And like I said, my experiences in most theaters have always been very positive. Like when something goes wrong, the picture goes out, the sound isn't right. Most of the time, movie theaters are right on top of it. They like give us free passes. They say, hey, folks, we're going to restart this movie for you from the beginning. Sorry for the inconvenience, but we're going to start this right from the beginning for you. Or something else. They do something to compensate. And that's the big thing here. So I think, yeah, movie theater, they don't have a responsibility to give you $1,000, but I think they have a responsibility to try to do something to make up for it. And it really sucks, Eric, that you had that experience. And just for the record, like I said, I have found in my experience, 95% of the time when something bad does happen in a theater, and it doesn't happen often, I've often found, whether it's at an ArcLight in Hollywood or at an AMC theater or at any other movie theater chain, I've generally found that the staff has usually been pretty responsive. It's really sucks though that you had that one experience that I didn't, because they should treat you as a customer better than that. All right, next topic.